The principles have not aged. What worked in the 1930s works now. Not because times are the same, but because human nature has not changed. The laws that govern success then govern success still. They operate whether you acknowledge them or not. They reward obedience and punish ignorance with equal precision. Most people believe that failure is a matter of luck or circumstance. It is not. Failure follows a pattern. It is the predictable result of ignoring principles that were set in motion long before you were born. These principles do not care about your background, your education, or your current position. They respond only to your willingness to align with them. When these principles are followed, success stops being a hope and starts being a conclusion. It becomes as reliable as mathematics, as dependable as the sunrise. The only question that remains is whether you will choose to live by them or continue to struggle against them. What you are about to hear is not theory. It is observation. These are patterns drawn from the lives of people who built industries, shaped economies, and left legacies that outlasted them. They understood something most people miss. Success is not accidental. It is structural. It is the inevitable result of certain behaviors repeated over time. You will be tempted to dismiss these lessons as too simple. That temptation has destroyed more potential than ignorance ever could. The truths that change lives rarely sound revolutionary. They sound familiar, and they demand action you have been delaying. Simple does not mean easy. Simple means clear. And clarity, when acted upon, becomes power. Listen differently now. Not as someone hunting for the next strategy, but as someone searching for alignment. One of these lessons will disturb something in you. That is the one you have been avoiding. Pay attention to the resistance you feel. That resistance marks the place where your growth is waiting. Do not judge these ideas by how they sound. Judge them by what happens when you live them. Words mean nothing until they become behavior. Behavior means nothing until it becomes habit. And habit, when aligned with principle, becomes destiny. When principle meets practice, results follow without drama. Let us begin. Lesson 1. The Law of Internal Arrangement. Every serious undertaking begins long before the world can see it. It begins in the private chamber of thought, where a person stands alone with their desire and makes a choice that will shape everything that follows. From the outside, people only notice change when hands start moving, when plans take visible form, when money appears. But the real beginning happens deeper. It happens the moment someone stops drifting and commits to a direction with the seriousness of someone issuing an order to themselves. Until that internal event takes place, success cannot reach them. Because success does not respond to people who move without intention. A person may have talent, energy, or discipline, but these qualities stay scattered until direction pulls them together. Without direction, strength leaks through 100 small gaps. Without direction, effort is spent on tasks that do not matter. Without direction, opportunity shows up but finds no prepared space to enter. A mind that has not chosen its destination cannot lead the steps required to reach it. This is not a metaphor. It is a mechanical truth. The subconscious mind requires clear instruction. When that instruction is absent, it defaults to preservation rather than expansion. It keeps you safe rather than moving you forward. Safety and growth rarely occupy the same space. This is why I call direction the first law. Nothing in the life of someone who succeeds begins before this choice is made. Every other quality rests on this foundation. Even persistence, which everyone praises, becomes stubbornness if it is not tied to a clear aim. Faith becomes superstition if it is not anchored in purpose. Enthusiasm becomes a flicker if it is not bound to a single end. Consider the example of John D. Rockefeller in his early years. He did not begin with wealth or connections. He began with a clear direction to build a lasting enterprise in oil. His choice was not casual. It was final. And because he carried this internal clarity, the world began to respond to him accordingly. Direction gave him authority before results confirmed it. People sensed that he was not experimenting. He was executing. Now contrast this with the majority who spread themselves across many shallow desires. They want comfort today, opportunity tomorrow, reputation next month. They shift their aim as easily as the weather changes. They cannot commit to one thing long enough to master it. Their direction is borrowed from mood, not fixed by choice. These people stay in motion but make no actual progress. They confuse activity with advancement and wonder why years pass without reward. Direction is not a casual selection. It is an internal arrangement that pulls every part of a person toward one end. It sharpens thought. It organizes energy. It clarifies perception. It purifies desire. It does not merely point the way. It prepares the traveler. Direction transforms scattered potential into concentrated force. When someone chooses their direction, the subconscious accepts this as law and begins shaping behavior to match the instruction. Idle habits fall away. Indecision loses ground. Effort becomes unified. The person becomes one thing instead of many fragments. This unification is what others perceive as confidence. But it is not confidence in the usual sense. It is alignment. And alignment carries a magnetic quality that draws opportunity toward it. You may have noticed that those who succeed seem to move with quiet authority even before results appear. This calm is not arrogance. It is the natural effect of direction. A person who knows where they are going does not tremble with every shift in weather. They do not question their worth at every obstacle. They do not retreat because others doubt them. Their direction holds them steady. They become like a river that cannot turn back to its source. All its force moves forward. Direction also reveals the companions you should keep and the companions you should release. When someone does not know their path, all company feels acceptable. But when direction is chosen, they see clearly which influences strengthen them and which weaken them. As direction adjusts, environment adjusts with it. People sense direction. They either rise to meet it or fall away from it. Consider how direction changes the way others see you. A person without direction appears uncertain, easily swayed, easily doubted. But someone with direction commands respect even before earning it. Their certainty becomes a quiet form of persuasion. Others feel safer near them because they appear safe within themselves. Even those who disagree recognize that they move from conviction, not convenience. Direction also protects against the danger of imitation. Many fail because they attempt to follow the aims of others rather than the call of their own nature. They adopt goals that do not belong to them, and then wonder why their spirit resists. But someone who chooses their direction from within cannot be swayed by the noise of comparison. Their purpose becomes a compass that returns them to truth whenever distraction calls. When you choose your direction, choose boldly. Choose something worthy of the discipline it will require. Choose something that strengthens you as you pursue it. And once chosen, do not revisit the decision except to deepen it. A direction reconsidered daily is not direction at all. It is hesitation disguised as thought. Lesson 2. The discipline of quiet persistence. As I studied the men and women whose names became attached to industry and lasting achievement, I found that nearly all of them shared a quality that escapes most people. This quality was not brilliance, unusual strength, or fortunate timing. It was not charisma, family connections, or rare opportunity. It was something far simpler. They worked with a quiet persistence, a calm, steady, uninterrupted consistency that asked for no praise, needed no excitement, and depended on no outside encouragement. While the average person labored with much noise and little progress, these individuals worked with little noise and great progress. Quiet persistence cannot be understood by those who believe progress must be dramatic to be real. Most people pursue their aims with bursts of motivation followed by long stretches of inactivity. They believe they can make up in intensity what they lack in consistency. But life does not reward those whose flame burns wildly for a moment. It rewards those whose flame burns steadily for years. Quiet persistence is the flame that does not flicker. Look at Henry Ford in his early years, long before machines bore his name. He did not announce his ambition. He did not tell every passerby that he would change transportation. He bent his head over each small improvement, repeated his experiments, refined his failures, and returned the next day with the same quiet resolve. There was no noise in his labor, no audience to admire his effort. Yet the force he built through repetition grew until it became visible in the world around him. Contrast this with those who require applause to work, or those who cannot move forward unless excitement carries them. Such people begin with energy, but end with exhaustion. Their enthusiasm cannot endure the friction of slow results. They expect quick harvest from shallow soil. When difficulties arise, their fire evaporates, and they believe fate has betrayed them. In truth, they have betrayed themselves because they relied on emotion instead of discipline. Quiet persistence does not rely on emotion. It is built on decision. Once someone decides on their aim, quiet persistence becomes the method by which that aim is pursued. It is not loud, because loudness is often a sign of doubt. It is not hurried, because hurry is a confession of disorganization. It is not dependent on inspiration, because inspiration is unreliable. Quiet persistence is a habit, not a mood. Most people underestimate the power of a habit. They imagine that only grand actions produce great results. But I have found that the smallest act, when repeated faithfully, contains more power than the largest act performed only once. The hill is moved not by the shovel struck in anger, but by the steady lifting and placing of earth. Quiet persistence is the method by which mountains are moved without commotion. When someone practices quiet persistence, something deep within them changes. Their mind becomes obedient to their will. Their will becomes obedient to their purpose. The scattered impulses that once controlled them fall silent. Their confidence grows, not through praise, but through the quiet knowledge that they can rely on themselves. They become someone others trust, even before understanding why. People of quiet persistence never boast of how hard they work. They do not speak endlessly of their obstacles. They do not seek pity or admiration. They simply continue. And this continuation is their advantage. The world is filled with people who begin strongly and end weakly. The person who continues quietly, steadily, without complaint will surpass them all. Because the world cannot resist the progress of someone who refuses to stop. Quiet persistence is also a protector of time. Those who work quietly waste no hours dramatizing their effort. They do not pause to convince others of their seriousness. Their energy is reserved for creation, not performance. This is why people of quiet persistence gain years others lose. Their progress multiplies because they do not leak energy through noise, distraction, or emotional outbursts. Quiet persistence becomes especially powerful when progress appears slow. The common person abandons their aim when results do not match expectations. But those of quiet persistence know that slow progress is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that foundations are being laid. They do not protest the pace. They trust the law of accumulation. They continue. Others will begin to notice the change in you. When quiet persistence becomes your nature, they will see in your manner a calm confidence, a steadiness that does not depend on mood. They will trust your word because your action repeats it. They will sense that you are not experimenting with your purpose. You are advancing toward it. Lesson 3. The account of inner thought. In my long study of success, I discovered that every person carries a hidden ledger within their own mind. A silent record keeper that tracks each thought they allow to remain, each belief they repeat, each doubt they entertain, and each conviction they strengthen. This ledger determines far more than outward labor. It determines the limit or expansion of what is possible for them. While the world measures someone by their actions, life measures them by the balance within this ledger. Because action is only the outer echo of thought, and thought is the seed that commands the field. What you think about consistently becomes what you live eventually. This is not philosophy. It is observation repeated across thousands of lives. Most people never learn that each recurring thought is a deposit or a debt. A thought of fear is a withdrawal from the account of courage. A thought of defeat is a subtraction from the account of possibility. A thought of envy is a charge against the account of faith. These thought debts accumulate quietly until the person discovers, often too late, that they have bankrupted their chance for greatness long before they ever attempted to act. The tragedy is not that they failed to act. The tragedy is that they conditioned themselves to fail long before action was required. By the time opportunity arrived, their inner ledger was already in deficit. They could not believe in the possibility because they had spent years depositing impossibility. But those who understand the ledger begin at once to reverse their fortune. They recognize that each intentional thought of confidence is a deposit toward a stronger character. Each repetition of purpose deepens resolve. Each inner phrase of determination becomes a coin in the treasury of will. As these deposits grow, something remarkable happens. Life begins to deal with them according to the balance they have built, not the circumstances they inhabit. Most people guard their money more carefully than their thoughts, never realizing that money is merely an outward reflection of inner conditions. A poor thought habit will destroy wealth faster than misfortune. A rich thought habit will create opportunity where none appears visible. Every person is their own treasurer, and the mind does not forgive careless bookkeeping. You may not be able to control every event of your day, but you can control every thought you choose to strengthen. Events occur briefly. Thoughts remain until replaced. You may not change your surroundings at once, but you can change the ledger from which your surroundings arise. The world begins to reorganize itself when you reorganize the ideas that occupy your inner chamber. This law is neither mystical nor mysterious. It is practical. It is as reliable as gravity. I observed its operation among successful people so frequently that I began to regard it as a law of nature. Their fortunes rose because their inner ledger carried a consistent surplus of thought deposits, belief, direction, courage, expectation. These deposits shaped the tone of their speech, the firmness of their manner, and the decisiveness of their action. You must therefore begin the work of deliberate thought accounting. Treat your mind as a treasury. Admit no thought that weakens your aim. Encourage no idea that lowers your expectation. Strengthen no image that contradicts the person you intend to become. Every time you permit a destructive thought to remain, you pay interest on that thought in the form of wasted days and weakened will. A single negative idea repeated often is more dangerous than one great misfortune. Misfortune comes and goes, but a repeated idea becomes a habit, and a habit becomes identity. This is why the person who constantly rehearses failure cannot recognize opportunity when it appears. Their inner ledger has trained them to see obstacles, not openings. The ledger does not merely store thoughts. It shapes the person who stores them. You must choose your thoughts with the seriousness of someone choosing the bricks with which they will build their home. Once you begin this discipline, others will notice a change in you. They may not hear the thoughts you choose, but they will feel the authority they produce. You will speak with clearer tone, walk with steadier bearing, and meet difficulty with calmer judgment. These outward signs reflect an inward surplus. The ledger within you will determine the height you reach long before the world sees the first sign of victory. It is the root system beneath the soil. It is the unseen engine of destiny. If it is in order, results must eventually appear. If it is in disorder, no amount of effort can compensate. Lesson 4. The principle of deliberate alliance. As I moved deeper into the study of those who rose from obscurity to achievement, one fact became clearer than any other. No great success was ever the work of a single mind. The world admires the image of the self-made individual, standing tall on accomplishments built by their own hand. But this image is a myth that flatters pride while hiding truth. Every person who rose to significance, whether in commerce, invention, or leadership, did so through alliances that strengthened their thought, steadied their will, and compensated for their deficiencies. It is not weakness to depend on other minds. It is wisdom. I call this principle deliberate alliance because alliance alone is not enough. A person may surround themselves with company that entertains them, flatters them, or soothes their doubts. Yet such company offers no aid in shaping success. Deliberate alliance is intentional. It is built on mutual value. It is chosen not for comfort, but for elevation. It joins minds that share seriousness of purpose and a standard of conduct that demands more from each than either would demand alone. Andrew Carnegie understood this law better than any person of his generation. He often declared that his greatest fortune was not steel, property, or machinery, but the company of capable people he gathered around him. His group of associates contained minds that differed in skill but united in purpose. Each person strengthened the whole. Each brought clarity where another brought foresight. Each contributed to a harmony of thought that produced results no single mind could have devised. Carnegie knew that a great enterprise is not built by one mind thinking alone, but by several minds thinking as one. You must not mistake this law for the common idea of friendship. Friendship, though valuable, does not guarantee success. There are friends who hinder ambition by urging caution where courage is needed. There are friends who encourage distraction rather than discipline. There are friends who admire your dreams but lack the ability or desire to help you build them. Friendship serves the heart. Deliberate alliance serves destiny. Deliberate alliance does more than strengthen thought. It strengthens character. When someone keeps company with minds of discipline, they become more disciplined. When they surround themselves with people of strong purpose, their own purpose deepens. When they ally with those who strive for excellence, they become ashamed to fall short. A person rises or falls according to the moral tone of those who walk beside them. This law contains both opportunity and danger. The same principle that can lift someone can also pull them downward if applied carelessly. The wrong alliance weakens conviction, distracts the mind, and nurtures habits that corrode progress. Many people possess worthy aims yet fail because they remain in the company of those who doubt, procrastinate, or belittle ambition. Such minds scatter energy and produce confusion. You cannot rise when you walk among those who settle. When someone forms deliberate alliance, something extraordinary occurs. They gain access to wisdom they did not earn alone. Problems that once seemed insurmountable become manageable when viewed through multiple perspectives. Their courage grows because they no longer stand alone against adversity. Allies lend confidence until their own confidence becomes large enough to sustain them. You may wonder how to find or form such alliances. You do not search for them among those who speak loudly of their ambitions, but among those who demonstrate them. Look for people who carry themselves with purpose, who speak thoughtfully, who work faithfully, who do not shrink from responsibility. Such people may not announce their greatness, but their character reveals it. When you join your mind with theirs, your horizon expands. And do not fear that your present station disqualifies you. J.P. Morgan did not possess wealth when he began in banking. What he possessed was direction and willingness. Ability respects willingness. Strong minds recognize sincerity. If your aim is definite and your conduct honorable, you will draw to yourself minds that strengthen your character and accelerate your progress. The world judges you not only by the company you keep, but by the company you attract. When others observe that you walk beside capable people, they assume you are capable yourself. People seldom associate deeply with those beneath their standard. Thus, deliberate alliance not only lifts your ability, but also elevates the way others perceive your ability. Perception becomes opportunity. Lesson 5. The command of focused imagination. Among all the faculties with which a person has been equipped, none holds greater creative power or greater destructive power than imagination. It is the workshop in which thought takes shape, where desire gains form, where hope is clothed in substance, and where fear is permitted to mold gloom into reality. Most people treat imagination as idle daydreaming, a passing indulgence, a private theater in which visions play briefly and vanish. But those who succeed treat imagination as a forge where the designs of their future are made and hardened into commands. Their imagination does not wander. It obeys. I call this the command of focused imagination. Because imagination does not merely show pictures to the mind. It instructs the subconscious what to build. The subconscious, loyal to every dominant idea, accepts these mental images as blueprints and proceeds to gather the materials of circumstance, opportunity, and action to match them. The person who allows their imagination to roam in fear unwittingly commands failure, while the person who directs their imagination with intention silently orders success. But imagination becomes dangerous when left without direction. The average person imagines defeat more often than victory. They rehearse misfortune, not success. They picture obstacles larger than they truly are. They imagine what they fear with greater intensity than what they desire. These mental pictures, repeated daily, take root. They instruct the subconscious to prepare for failure. And failure, being faithfully obeyed, arrives with punctual certainty. This is not superstition. This is mechanism. The subconscious does not distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. Both create the same neural pathways. Both shape the same behavioral patterns. When you repeatedly imagine failure, you train your nervous system to recognize and execute failure. When you repeatedly imagine success, you train your system to recognize and execute success. You must take command of your imagination as a general takes command of an army. You must decide what images are allowed to remain. You must dismiss the pictures that weaken your spirit. You must enlarge the pictures that strengthen your purpose. Imagination left idle becomes a thief. Imagination directed becomes a servant. You must create pictures that demand growth. Do not imagine yourself as you are, but as the person required to fulfill the aim you have chosen. Imagination must lead you upward, not reflect you downward. Picture a clearer mind, a stronger character, a firmer will, a disciplined habit of thought. Picture your work executed with precision, your days ordered with purpose, your presence carrying weight. These images, repeated quietly, teach your subconscious what to draw from you. Others will notice when you have mastered this law. They may not see the pictures in your mind, but they will feel the confidence those pictures produce. They will remark on your calmness, your certainty, your manner of speaking as though you have already walked the road you are beginning. They will sense that nothing in your conduct contradicts your aim. That is the sign of someone whose imagination is obedient. You must also understand that your imagination is influenced by your environment. The pictures you allow into your mind through conversation, reading, and association shape the pictures your imagination later creates. Therefore, guard the entrance to your mind as you would guard the vault of a treasure. Admit only what strengthens your purpose. Reject what weakens it. Be wary of imagining too many outcomes at once. A divided imagination leads to a divided life. Hold one image of your chief aim and let every other picture fall away. Consistency of image produces consistency of action. Consistency of action produces inevitability of result. The great people I studied were not gifted with unusual powers. They were gifted with unusual discipline. They refused to allow their imagination to wander into doubt. They refused to indulge pictures that contradicted their direction. They lived within images of their desire until those images became identity. And once identity was formed, success followed. The world always aligns with those who have aligned themselves inwardly. Imagination must be trained. It must be exercised. It must be nourished with thought and faith. The more you repeat an inner image, the more vivid it becomes. The more vivid it becomes, the more power it gains. The more power it gains, the more naturally your actions conform to its outline. Your imagination is building your future this very moment. The question is not whether it is building, but whether it is building by accident or by command. Lesson 6. The currency of character. As my study of achievement grew broader and deeper, I found myself returning again and again to one truth so persistent it could not be dismissed as coincidence. The strongest opportunities flowed toward the strongest characters. People of wavering integrity found themselves advancing one day and retreating the next. People of questionable motives rose briefly and then fell with dramatic speed. But people whose character carried the weight of principle, people who could be trusted, people who honored their word, people whose conduct was consistent, found that doors opened for them with ease where others found only barriers. It became clear to me that character is not merely a moral virtue. It is a form of currency, a purchasing power that buys confidence, respect, influence, and eventually wealth. Many people misunderstand character. They imagine it to be a private quality admired perhaps by conscience, but irrelevant to success. Nothing could be farther from truth. Character is a public force. It precedes someone into every room they enter. It speaks before they speak. It shapes the tone with which others respond to them. People of strong character carry an atmosphere, an unmistakable impression that they can be depended upon. People of weak character carry an odor of risk. Look at the rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Whatever one thinks of his policies, none could deny the power of his character. He was firm, disciplined, courageous, and steady in principle. His character did not merely support his success. It generated it. People followed him not because he demanded loyalty, but because he embodied the stability others wished to cultivate within themselves. This is the currency of character, the ability to influence without force, to command without shouting, to inspire without pleading. This law becomes even clearer when you examine the failures. People who sought shortcuts, who bent principles for temporary gain, who used deception to advance their aims, inevitably paid a great penalty. Their victories were brief, their reputations shattered, their opportunities poisoned. Wealth cannot remain in the hands of the corrupt, for corruption repels trust, and trust is the lifeblood of enterprise. Someone may gather riches by questionable methods, but they will not keep them. Fortune is drawn to character and escapes characterlessness. You must understand that the currency of character is not a rigid severity nor a pretended virtue. It is a practical force built through daily conduct. Each time you keep your word, your character strengthens. Each time you choose honesty over convenience, your character earns interest. Each time you restrain anger, temper desire, or control impulse, you enlarge the foundation on which your future must rest. Character is built in private, but rewarded in public. Let us consider why character holds such economic force. A person of integrity frees the minds of those around them. Others do not worry whether they hide a motive. They do not question whether they will fulfill obligations. Their thoughts remain unburdened. People gravitate toward those who ease their concerns. They recoil from those who multiply them. Character becomes a magnet for cooperation. Strong character also expands opportunity by enlarging someone's own sense of worthiness. Many people fail not because they lack ability, but because they secretly doubt their right to succeed. They sabotage their efforts, shrink from advancement, or accept conditions beneath their potential. But when someone disciplines themselves inwardly, when they behave in a manner that earns their own respect, they begin to feel deserving of success. Their subconscious responds. Their decisions become bolder. Their presence becomes firmer. Their results follow. Character is also protection. When storms arise, and they will rise for everyone, character steadies the spirit. It prevents panic. It preserves judgment. It keeps emotion from flooding reason. Many failures occur not because the plan was poor, but because the person was unprepared to hold steady under pressure. Character is the ballast that keeps the vessel upright when the winds strike. It is true that some people possess charm that wins temporary favor. But charm without character is a painted mask. It cracks under the weight of responsibility. The world eventually withdraws from those whose mask hides weakness beneath it. But the world draws near to those whose strength is genuine, steady, and tested by time. Do not imagine that your present character is fixed. Character can be enlarged. It can be sharpened. It can be strengthened by intention. Each day offers opportunities to practice restraint, honesty, courage, patience, clarity, and discipline. These virtues accumulate like coins, building a treasury of moral power that will one day pay for opportunities you could not purchase otherwise. Others will notice your growth. They will sense a dignity in your manner, a steadiness in your tone, a reliability in your conduct. They will offer trust without bargaining. And trust, once given, unlocks doors no keys can open. Lesson 7. The finality of decision. Among the most common errors I observed in the lives of unsuccessful people was their belief that a decision must be revisited, reconsidered, rephrased, and repeated endlessly before it gains power. They speak of their aims today with boldness, only to speak of their doubts tomorrow with equal confidence. Their decisions echo throughout their days, bouncing from conviction to hesitation, from certainty to retreat. This echo destroys the force of their will. No decision gains strength through repetition of thought. A decision gains strength through finality. A true decision is an inward decree, a law someone sets upon themselves. It is spoken once, silently or aloud, and from that moment forward it governs their conduct. They do not rehearse it. They do not negotiate with it. They do not gather approval to reinforce it. A true decision stands alone, unshaken by emotion, untouched by the passing of days. The person obeys it because they have made it. This is the finality of decision. I observe this principle most clearly in the conduct of Wilbur and Orville Wright. They decided they would build a machine capable of sustained flight. This was not a hope. It was a decree. They did not revisit the matter in doubt. They did not waver when others mocked them. They did not soften their aim when failure appeared repeatedly. They walked toward their aim with the calmness of one's fulfilling a duty. And because their decision was final, the world eventually yielded. Their example reveals something critical. A final decision transforms obstacles from reasons to quit into problems to solve. The person with an unfinal decision sees difficulty as evidence they should reconsider. The person with a final decision sees difficulty as part of the process they already committed to complete. This is the power of the finality of decision. Most people do not fail because their decisions are poor. They fail because their decisions are weak. They announce them loudly but abandon them quietly. They speak of ambition in moments of inspiration, but surrender it in moments of fatigue. Their decisions echo endlessly inside their minds because they have never been sealed. An unsealed decision must be repeated because it has not been obeyed. A sealed decision requires no repetition because the person has already begun to act as though the outcome were certain. You must learn to distinguish between a preference and a decision. A preference is something someone would like to have. A decision is something they will have, and having declared it, they adjust their conduct accordingly. A preference shifts with conditions. A decision shapes conditions. A preference asks, "May I?" A decision declares, "I shall." Those who achieved greatness did not repeat their decisions. They embodied them. Edison did not wake each morning to ask whether he would continue his search for the incandescent lamp. The decision had already been made. Roosevelt did not question whether he would serve with courage. The decision lived within him. Carnegie did not revisit whether he would build an empire of industry. The decision shaped his every day. When someone continues to talk about the same decision, it reveals that the decision has not entered their identity. They are trying to convince themselves through sound rather than through action. But the subconscious does not obey echoes. It obeys only the seriousness of a decree followed by corresponding effort. Once the subconscious accepts a decision as final, it begins arranging resources, allies, ideas, and opportunities with a precision that astonishes the untrained mind. This law does not suggest that someone should decide hastily or without thought. Proper decision requires clarity of direction and sincerity of purpose. But once the decision is made, further debate must cease. Someone who debates after deciding has not decided. They have postponed decision under the disguise of thought. Others will sense your change the moment you begin practicing this law. Your tone will shift. Your presence will steady. Conversation will no longer trap you in justifications. You will speak little of your plans, yet your movement will reveal their seriousness. People respect finality. They follow those who stand unmoved. They distrust those who must re-explain themselves. The finality of decision creates peace of mind. It silences doubt. It frees energy. Instead of spending your strength on internal argument, you spend it on progress. You no longer tremble when delays appear or when results come slowly. You know that you have chosen, and that time itself now bends toward your choice. Lesson 8. The discipline of intentional release. As I examined the rise of the most successful people of my time, I found a principle so simple and so often ignored that it explained more failures than misfortune ever could. Every gain demands a release. No person can hold two directions at once. No person can cling to old habits while reaching for new results. No person can be devoted to comfort and also claim greatness. This truth reveals itself quietly in the lives of all who achieve lasting success. They practice the discipline of intentional release, the art of surrendering the lesser so the greater may take its place. Most people misunderstand release. They imagine it to be loss, deprivation, or punishment. But true release is not suffering. It is exchange. It is the deliberate removal of what weakens someone's growth so they may strengthen what matters most. The farmer does not mourn the seed they bury. They rejoice in the harvest it summons. In the same way, those who succeed part with what seems precious only because they know it must give way to something more valuable. Nikola Tesla, whose innovations shaped modern electricity, practiced this law with remarkable discipline. He released the comfort of steady employment for the uncertainty of invention. He released the approval of those who doubted him for the satisfaction of proving new principles. He released ease for experimentation, leisure for learning. Each surrender increased his capacity. Each relinquishment strengthened his aim. His releases were not losses. They were the very tools that carved his success. Yet most people resist release because they fear that giving up anything diminishes them. They cling to habits that exhaust them, associations that distract them, comforts that weaken them, and fears that blind them. They demand improvement while protecting the very behaviors that prevent it. They attempt to build new results on old identities. Such efforts collapse not from lack of opportunity, but from lack of surrender. Intentional release is not reckless. It is precise. It demands that someone measure each attachment by a single question. Does this strengthen or weaken my purpose? If it strengthens, they preserve it. If it weakens, they release it quietly, firmly, without complaint. Those who practice intentional release do not throw away value. They remove burden. They lighten their load so they may climb. Someone's character is revealed not by what they accumulate, but by what they are willing to relinquish. The weak person surrenders responsibility. The strong person surrenders excuses. The weak person releases their future for the ease of the present. The strong person releases their ease for the strength of their future. The world rewards the latter and punishes the former without exception. Release also clarifies purpose. When someone gives something up for their aim becomes more precious to them. They become protective of it. They invest more deeply in it. Their subconscious begins to value it with seriousness. This emotional investment strengthens resolve, making retreat unthinkable. Someone who has released for their purpose becomes someone who will persist until their purpose is complete. Others will notice the change when you begin practicing this law. They will sense a firmness in your manner, a seriousness in your tone, a quiet resolve in the way you conduct yourself. You will not need to announce your releases. They will reveal themselves in the quality of your progress. People may wonder how you move so steadily, how you seem less burdened than before, how your eyes reflect a clearer vision. The answer will be simple. You have laid down what no longer belongs to the person you are becoming. Intentional release also transforms desire into action. Many people desire success, but take no steps toward it because desire alone carries no cost. But once someone releases something for their aim, whether time, comfort, habit, or approval, desire becomes duty. Duty moves someone in ways desire never could. Duty shapes character. Duty summons strength. There will come moments, however, when release feels heavy. The older habits will call to you. The easier paths will tempt you. The voices of the past will remind you of the comfort you once held. In these moments, anchor yourself with this truth. If you surrender now, you surrender the person you could become. Those who succeeded were not free from temptation. They were free from negotiation. They had decided once and for all that the price was worth the price. They paid it willingly, repeatedly, faithfully. Lesson 9. The steadiness of inner temperature. As I observed the conduct of the most successful people of my era, I discovered a distinction so clear and so decisive that it separated builders from dreamers. It was not talent that made the difference, nor opportunity, nor education. It was the way each person governed their inner temperature, the emotional climate in which their thoughts worked and their decisions took shape. Some people allowed their feelings to flare and collapse like sudden storms. Others maintained a steady heat of purpose that warmed every action but never scorched it. This discipline, quiet and rarely understood, is what I call the steadiness of inner temperature. Emotion is not an enemy. Emotion is a servant when governed. It is the fire that warms the engines of thought, the spark that ignites action, the breath that gives life to imagination. But fire that grows wild destroys the very structure it was meant to strengthen. Emotion that grows undisciplined burns judgment, blinds reason, and scatters purpose. Those who succeed understand this. They welcome emotion but keep it within the furnace of discipline where it powers their advancement without ever consuming them. Look at Henry Ford. He possessed deep enthusiasm, but it was never frantic. His excitement did not throw him into chaos, nor did disappointment plunge him into despair. His temperature remained steady. This allowed him to move through trial after trial without losing command of his mind. His emotion warmed his persistence, but never distorted his judgment. Many people of greater technical skill fell behind him because their emotional temperature varied wildly. Their spirit ran hot with excitement one day, cold with discouragement the next. Ford advanced because he burned evenly. The steady temperature does not mean absence of feeling. It means mastery of feeling. Ford felt discouragement. He felt frustration. He felt doubt. But he did not permit these emotions to dictate his behavior. He acknowledged them, then returned to his work. This is the discipline most people never develop. They believe they must wait until they feel differently before they can act differently. But those who succeed act despite feeling, not because of it. Emotion must be treated as a tool. When you feel the spark of enthusiasm, use it to begin your labor. When you feel the rising flame of purpose, let it strengthen your will. But never allow emotion to dictate your course or to distort the truth of your aim. Emotion can assist purpose, but emotion cannot guide purpose. The moment emotion takes the lead, purpose is lost in the smoke. Consider also the example of George Washington Carver, whose steady temperament allowed him to conduct thousands of experiments without losing composure. His warmth attracted cooperation. His steadiness earned trust. This is emotional temperature harnessed with mastery. Now study the failures. You will find among them people who burned too hot. They began their endeavors with great excitement, spoke boldly of their plans, and inspired others with passionate words. But when challenges appeared, and challenges always appear, their enthusiasm cooled rapidly. Their temperature swung wildly from eagerness to resignation. Their progress died not from lack of ability, but from lack of emotional discipline. There is another danger: people who run too cold. These are the people who fear emotion altogether. They repress feeling until their work becomes mechanical and lifeless. Their ideas lack vitality. Their presence lacks influence. They move without inspiration and therefore inspire no one. The steadiness of inner temperature does not mean suppressing emotion. It means using emotion as fuel without becoming enslaved by it. Those I studied all possessed warmth, a quiet fire in the heart that radiated conviction. They did not shout. They did not tremble. They carried themselves with a calm heat, a seriousness that others respected instinctively. Their emotional temperature signaled that they cared deeply, worked faithfully, and endured steadily. This heat made their presence felt even before their achievements appeared. Steady temperature is essential in moments of adversity. Someone who loses command of their inner climate becomes helpless against fear, anger, or discouragement. They panic. They speak rashly. They choose poorly. But someone who keeps their temperature balanced meets difficulty with a level mind. They neither freeze from fear nor burn from impatience. They remain usable by their own purpose. When someone controls their temperature, they become reliable. Others trust them not because they are perfect, but because they are consistent. People know their reactions will not threaten the success of shared aims. They know they will not crumble in difficulty nor become reckless in victory. The steadiness of inner temperature is the foundation of leadership. This law saves time as well as effort. People ruled by emotion waste days recovering from outbursts, regrets, and rash decisions. Their temperature swings consume the very energy needed for advancement. But those who govern emotion preserve their energy. They move steadily forward while others pause to cool their tempers or reignite their fading enthusiasm. You must practice this law daily. Observe your temperature. If enthusiasm surges too high, slow your speech, calm your breath, and return to your purpose. If discouragement cools your spirit, recall your aim. Repeat your affirmation and move your hands even if your heart hesitates. Temperature obeys effort. Others will soon feel your stability. They will sense the disciplined fire in your manner. They will trust your counsel. They will follow your lead. Someone whose emotional temperature is steady becomes a source of strength for all who stand near them. Lesson 10. The architecture of surroundings. In every life I studied, whether the life ended in triumph or in quiet failure, one influence appeared again and again, so constant, so silent, and so powerful that most people never recognize its hand. That influence is surroundings. Someone may possess ambition, clarity, discipline, and hope. Yet if they remain in surroundings that deny these qualities, their progress slows, weakens, or collapses. Surroundings are the soil in which the mind grows. Rich soil multiplies seed. Poor soil suffocates it. This truth forms the architecture of surroundings. People who rise do not wait for chance surroundings. They shape their surroundings as a farmer shapes their field. They understand that the mind cannot flourish in disorder, nor thrive in noise, nor strengthen itself among influences that contradict its purpose. Someone must therefore take command of the space in which they live, the people they allow near them, the habits they tolerate, and the objects that occupy their hours. What they permit around them becomes what they produce within them. Look at the conduct of Andrew Carnegie. Before his empire bore fruit, he guarded his surroundings with the seriousness of someone guarding treasure. He kept near him only those people who lifted his thought, sharpened his judgment, or expanded his vision. He removed himself from places that weakened discipline. He sought surroundings that steadied his purpose. These choices, though quiet and unnoticed by the world, shaped the character that shaped his fortune. Likewise, every great inventor, statesman, and thinker maintained deliberate surroundings. Edison created a workshop that permitted no idle minds. Bell surrounded himself with instruments and writings that stirred imagination. Lincoln kept his working room simple, ordered, and nearly bare so that his mind could remain focused on the monumental questions before him. Their surroundings were not accidental. They were crafted. Most people, however, treat surroundings as a harmless backdrop. They allow noise, disorder, idle voices, and careless influences to settle around them like dust. Their attention becomes divided. Their will weakens. Their aspiration dims. They attempt to rise while standing on ground that pulls them downward. No one climbs a hill while clinging to the valley that holds them. The architecture of surroundings extends far beyond physical space. It includes the conversations you engage in, the voices you allow to influence your thought, the books you read, the habits you witness, the routines you maintain. Every influence shapes you whether you notice it or not. Someone becomes like the company they keep, the words they hear, and the ideas they repeat. Therefore, the wise person curates these influences with the care of a sculptor selecting tools. You must ask yourself daily, does this place help me think clearly? Does this company strengthen my aim? Do these words lift or limit me? Does this habit anchor or advance me? If the answer weakens your resolve, the surroundings must change, quietly, decisively, without apology. The world often misjudges this practice. When someone withdraws from idle company, they are called distant. When they seek solitude, they are called severe. When they refuse noise, they are called arrogant. But they do not act for the approval of the crowd. They act for the strengthening of their purpose. And when their success unfolds, the same world that questioned them praises the discipline it once misunderstood. There is a subtle danger in surroundings that appear harmless. A place need not be destructive to hinder growth. It need only be comfortable. Comfort is the slow enemy of progress. It lulls the mind, weakens vigilance, and persuades someone that tomorrow will do. But purposeful surroundings inconvenience comfort and protect ambition. They remind the person of the path they have chosen. The greatest shift occurs when someone realizes they may outgrow their surroundings. Their old companions, once suitable, may no longer share their seriousness. Their familiar routines may no longer serve their direction. Their usual places may no longer support the person they are becoming. When this realization arrives, they must not shrink from it. Outgrowing is not betrayal. It is advancement. As you practice this law, something remarkable happens. Your mind clears. Your energy increases. Your decisions sharpen. Your purpose strengthens. Others sense the change. They will see in your manner a new steadiness, a new quiet, a new conviction. This is the effect of deliberate surroundings shaping deliberate character. Lesson 11. The rhythm of uninterrupted advance. As I traced the lives of people who rose steadily from modest beginnings to commanding influence, I discovered a quiet force working beneath their efforts. A force so simple that most people overlook it, and so powerful that it explains triumphs attributed wrongly to genius or fortune. This force is the rhythm of uninterrupted advance, the habit of moving forward without permitting long pauses, emotional collapses, or idle retreats. While the ordinary person labors in bursts of energy and then sinks into periods of stagnation, those who succeed advance daily. Their steps may be small, but they are never halted. They do not begin and stop. They continue. The rhythm of uninterrupted advance is not a frantic pace. It is not haste, nor strain, nor feverish labor. It is the steady march of someone who has removed hesitation from their nature. Their mind turns always toward their aim. Their hands find daily work that strengthens their progress. Their character grows through repetition. Their subconscious receives continual instruction. Their purpose deepens through practice, not excitement. The common person exhausts themselves because they attempt to renew effort from emotion rather than from discipline. They work intensely when inspiration strikes, then collapse when inspiration fades. Their progress is like a flame that burns bright, then dies, then must be rekindled with difficulty. Each interruption weakens their will. Each pause cools their desire. Each retreat forces them to climb again the same hill they abandoned. They spend years traveling a short distance. But those who understand the rhythm of uninterrupted advance do not rely on inspiration. They rely on rhythm. They know that the mind prefers continuity, that the will strengthens through constancy, that the subconscious responds most faithfully to repeated signals. When they move forward every day, even slightly, they store momentum within their character. This momentum becomes their silent partner, pushing them forward even when the day feels heavy. Look again at the conduct of Thomas Edison. His experiments were not bursts of brilliance, but long chains of effort, each link forged by the day before. He advanced steadily, even through failure. He did not permit difficulty to interrupt his rhythm. Because he continued, his mind remained warmed by purpose. Because he continued, ideas flowed into his imagination. Because he continued, obstacles eventually surrendered. The rhythm of uninterrupted advance turned failure into progress and endurance into achievement. Consider also the life of the Wright brothers. Their success was not the product of sudden leaps, but of steady, uninterrupted advance. They moved from observation to experiment to refinement because they never allowed their efforts to cool. They did not perform with brilliance for a moment. They performed with reliability for years. Others came and went, rising briefly with bold claims, then falling when difficulty arrived. The Wrights continued, and continuation made them inevitable. The rhythm of uninterrupted advance is also a shield against doubt. Doubt thrives in idleness. When someone pauses too long, their mind becomes vulnerable to fear, comparison, and confusion. But when they advance daily, doubt has no time to take root. Their purpose fills their attention. Their progress, however modest, reminds them of their ability. Someone in motion feels far less fear than someone standing still. This law also governs the nature of habit. A habit requires repetition without interruption. Each break weakens the habit. Each continuation strengthens it. Many people attempt to build new habits with enthusiasm, but abandon them at the first discomfort. They think the cost of breaking rhythm is small. They do not see that each break demands a new beginning. Someone who starts again too many times eventually loses faith in themselves. The rhythm of uninterrupted advance does not demand large steps. It demands loyal steps. A single hour of honest labor repeated daily is stronger than a day of intense work followed by a week of silence. Someone who does a little each day becomes a giant when the years gather behind them. Someone who does much one day and nothing the next stays small. This law does not remove difficulty, but it removes the paralysis that difficulty once caused. When someone of uninterrupted advance meets adversity, they do not stop. They adjust. They adapt. They learn. But they continue. And because they continue, adversity loses much of its strength. You may wonder how to begin. Begin simply. Choose one action each day that advances your aim. Do not permit the day to end until that action is complete. Tomorrow, repeat. The next day, repeat again. Soon the action becomes habit. The habit becomes character. And the character becomes destiny. Lesson 12. The Order of Mental Space. Among the subtle discoveries of my long inquiry into the habits of successful people, none surprised me more than this. The mind cannot hold greatness while it is crowded with disorder, confusion, worry, bitterness, and cluttered thought. These occupy the very space where ideas, plans, and inspiration must enter. A mind jammed with unrest becomes a workshop without room for tools, a chamber so full of noise that wisdom cannot speak. This truth, though plain, escapes the masses. They attempt to add success to a mind already filled with fragments. But those who rise understand the first duty of thought, to remain clean. I call this discipline the order of mental space, for it requires someone to guard the purity of their mental world with the seriousness of a surgeon guarding instruments. No great plan can be built with a mind infected by resentment. No great decision can be made in the midst of emotional debris. No great opportunity can be recognized when the mind is clouded with restless worry. Before success can occupy a mind, the mind must be swept of the thoughts that war against success. Look at the example of Abraham Lincoln. He bore responsibilities heavier than any person of his age, yet he protected the order of his inner life. Though sorrow visited him often, he refused to allow bitterness to remain. Though critics wounded him deeply, he refused to let resentment cloud his judgment. Though obstacles threatened him daily, he refused to permit panic to disturb his inner order. His clarity came not from peace of circumstance, but from discipline of thought. Most people suffer not from lack of opportunity, but from lack of inner space. Their minds are so filled with the remnants of old failures, past injuries, useless fears, and idle memories that new ideas cannot find room to form. They cling to thoughts that no longer serve them. They replay scenes of regret. They entertain imagined troubles. They nourish grievances. All these mental accumulations crowd their inner workshop and leave no place for progress to be built. The order of mental space begins with the removal of destructive thoughts. A thought of envy clouds the mind. A thought of fear shakes it. A thought of resentment poisons it. A thought of self-pity weakens it. These thoughts must be dismissed immediately, firmly, without negotiation. You would not allow a thief to remain in your home simply because they knocked politely. Likewise, you must not allow destructive thoughts to remain merely because they arrive frequently. Order also requires simplicity. Many people attempt to pursue too many ambitions at once. Their minds, overwhelmed by competing desires, cannot concentrate their force. A divided mind cannot build with precision. You must choose the aims that matter and release the rest. Simplicity creates mental space. No great decision can be made in the midst of emotional debris. No great opportunity can be recognized when the mind is clouded with restless worry. Before success can occupy a mind, the mind must be swept of the thoughts that war against success. Look at the example of Abraham Lincoln. He bore responsibilities heavier than any person of his age, yet he protected the order of his inner life. Though sorrow visited him often, he refused to allow bitterness to remain. Though critics wounded him deeply, he refused to let resentment cloud his judgment. Though obstacles threatened him daily, he refused to permit panic to disturb his inner order. His clarity came not from peace of circumstance, but from discipline of thought. Most people suffer not from lack of opportunity, but from lack of inner space. Their minds are so filled with the remnants of old failures, past injuries, useless fears, and idle memories that new ideas cannot find room to form. They cling to thoughts that no longer serve them. They replay scenes of regret. They entertain imagined troubles. They nourish grievances. All these mental accumulations crowd their inner workshop and leave no place for progress to be built. The order of mental space begins with the removal of destructive thoughts. A thought of envy clouds the mind. A thought of fear shakes it. A thought of resentment poisons it. A thought of self-pity weakens it. These thoughts must be dismissed immediately, firmly, without negotiation. You would not allow a thief to remain in your home simply because they knocked politely. Likewise, you must not allow destructive thoughts to remain merely because they arrive frequently. Order also requires simplicity. Many people attempt to pursue too many ambitions at once. Their minds, overwhelmed by competing desires, cannot concentrate their force. A divided mind cannot build with precision. You must choose the aims that matter and release the rest. Simplicity creates mental space. Space creates clarity. Clarity creates strength. Look at the great builders of industry. Their desks were seldom littered with confusion. Their time was seldom filled with trivial matters. Their attention rested on a few great concerns. They demanded order because they understood that disordered surroundings produced disordered thought. They knew that clarity is not a luxury. It is a requirement. Another form of mental clutter comes from the constant rehearsal of failure. Many people keep the memory of their past defeats alive, feeding them with emotion and allowing them to overshadow future possibilities. But failure, once examined, must be dismissed. Its lesson must be kept. Its sting must be thrown away. Someone cannot build tomorrow with the rubble of yesterday scattered across the floor of their mind. The order of mental space does not demand a denial of difficulty. It demands mastery of it. When a troubling thought appears, you do not wrestle with it. You replace it. When fear arises, you answer it with purpose. When regret surfaces, you redirect your mind toward the duty of the hour. This discipline, repeated faithfully, cultivates a mind that is clear, quiet, and strong. As you practice this law, others will feel the difference in your presence. Your speech will become more deliberate. Your decisions will sharpen. Your patience will deepen. You will cease reacting impulsively. Your mind will no longer be cluttered with noise. You will hear your own thinking with greater accuracy. And in that clarity, direction will reveal itself more readily. A clean mind also attracts higher ideas. Inspiration enters easily when there is space for it to rest. Many of the greatest inventions, insights, and solutions arose not from frantic effort, but from quiet clarity. A clean mind invites wisdom the way a clean room invites light. Lesson 13. The transformation into final identity. When I completed my long examination of successful people, those who shaped industries, guided nations, and lifted themselves from obscurity into influence, I searched for the one truth that belonged beneath all others, the single law that governed every victory I had witnessed. That truth was this: someone does not achieve wealth or greatness by desire alone. They achieve it by becoming the sort of person to whom such results naturally belong. Every plan, every discipline, every law we have explored leads finally to this one: the transformation into final identity. Success is not something someone achieves. It is something they embody. Wealth does not answer those who merely want it. It answers those who have constructed within themselves the character, the habits, the thoughts, and the spirit of one who can carry it. Influence does not flow to those who covet it. It flows to those whose identity commands respect. Opportunity does not attach itself to those who beg for it. It attaches itself to those whose presence declares readiness. Most people attempt to build a new life while clinging to an old identity. They seek advancement without transformation. They labor outwardly while remaining inwardly unchanged. They decorate their ambition with fine words while maintaining the beliefs, doubts, fears, and habits that governed their lesser years. They want the results of a stronger person without becoming the stronger person. This contradiction condemns them to remain exactly where they are. You must understand that identity is destiny. Someone becomes what their repeated thoughts convince them they are. If they believe themselves small, they behave small. If they believe themselves incapable, they approach life timidly. If they believe themselves cursed by misfortune, they interpret every difficulty as proof. And though they may dream of greatness, their identity drags them back to the level of their belief. But someone determined to rise begins by shaping a new identity from within. They do not attempt to feel worthy. They practice worthiness. They do not wait for confidence. They behave with confidence. They do not wait for opportunity. They prepare as though opportunity is already approaching. Their actions define them long before results confirm them. They become the person before they receive the reward. This is not pretense. This is practice. The person who acts with discipline before feeling disciplined is not being dishonest. They are becoming disciplined. Identity is not discovered. It is constructed. And it is constructed through the daily repetition of behaviors that align with the person you have decided to become. Consider the life of Rockefeller once more. He did not become a titan of industry because fortune smiled upon him. He became a titan of industry because he assumed the identity of someone capable of building and managing vast enterprise. His inner identity was formed long before his outer results appeared. He thought as such a person would think. He planned as such a person would plan. He persisted as such a person would persist. And the world, responding to that identity, yielded accordingly. The same truth appears in the rise of Carnegie. Long before he commanded an empire of steel, he commanded himself. He acted as someone of industry while still a messenger boy. He assumed the identity of a leader before others could see it. His identity became a magnet that drew mentors, opportunities, and responsibilities that matched the person he had decided to become. Identity is not forged at the moment of achievement. It is forged in the quiet days before achievement. It is shaped by the promises someone keeps to themselves, by the discipline they maintain when no one is watching, by the thoughts they choose when doubt whispers, and by the conduct they maintain even when the reward is distant. Each of these acts adds a brick to the structure of identity. Eventually, the structure becomes so strong that success must rest upon it. Identity also clarifies decision. When someone knows who they are becoming, they know what to reject. Temptations lose their power. Distractions fall away. They do not ask, "Do I feel like it?" They ask, "Does this act belong to the person I am becoming?" This question eliminates conflict. It unifies thought and action. It removes hesitation. Someone of rising identity does not negotiate with their lesser self. There is a moment, quiet but decisive, in the rise of every great person when they cease trying to succeed and begin being the person who succeeds. The struggle shifts. Doubt fades. Confusion clears. Purpose settles. From that moment onward, every law of success works with them rather than against them. Identity aligns every part of their nature toward the same end. When your identity and your aim become one, success becomes a matter of time, not chance. You have now reached the end of these 13 lessons. What remains is not more knowledge, but a decision to embody what you have learned. To rise inwardly so that outward results cannot be denied. The laws are known. The path is clear. What remains is the willingness to walk it.